Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I'd very much like to endorse what the Secretary of State has already said and to commend the support for children and their families which he has outlined. And free school meals have only ever been intended to support pupils during term time, and we think it is important these arrangements return. Regarding the proposals today, I would ask my colleagues on the benches opposite why they never implemented any of this during the last Labour government. We need sensible policies to combat child poverty and not policy by PR. As a former teacher and head, I've seen many cases where children are the victims of neglect and where the extra care we can provide through schools is sometimes life-changing. But this will never replace the role of the parent. I ask, when did it suddenly become controversial to suggest that the primary responsibility for a child's welfare should be with their parents, or that people do not always spend vouchers in the way they are intended? Madam Deputy Speaker, I will share my own experience. My parents separated when I was 11 years old, and at one point I had to share a room with my father at my grandmother's house. I also qualified for free school meals, so it is something I have experienced myself. However, I never considered myself to be a child with a single parent. Both parents cared, both parents worked, and both parents did their best to provide for their children. Like many, they realised that parental responsibility doesn't end when your relationship does. And we must focus on breaking the cycle where the first reaction is to look to the state. It is a vicious circle, and we need to support families with early intervention and help with things such as budgeting and employment. Collect and pay arrangements from the Child Maintenance Service shows that only 60% of parents make payments. And these are not necessarily adequate payments and instead show figures for people who pay anything at all. And that leaves 40% who pay nothing. This, Madam Deputy Speaker, is a disgrace. And there are parents out there doing their best to manage under very difficult circumstances, whilst there are fathers and indeed mothers who disappear and think they can be absolved of all responsibility. This is not just immoral, it also means many hard-working parents have to struggle and support their children on their own. And the welfare state is rightly there as a safety net, but it is not, however, a replacement. And I've spoken to parents in Bassetlaw who have been left without support for years. We need to track these people down and make them contribute towards their children's welfare. Where is the slick PR campaign encouraging absent parents to take some responsibility for their children? I do not believe in nationalising children. Instead, we need to get back to the idea of taking responsibility. And this means less celebrity virtue signalling on Twitter by proxy and more action to tackle the real causes of child poverty.